Hey ho everybody, Ginger Gargoyle here. This is day 2 of National Craft Month. It will last the entire month of March. I don't know if this paper is going to make it through, but it will last the entire month of March. And for the first week, we are talking about knitting. Yesterday, I showed you 4 different types of cast on, and I asked you to cast on 30 stitches, which I did myself, but I've got a little swatch that I've worked out for you guys for today. And we're going to go over the basic knit stitch. Now, I just cast on 15, so just half of what you would do. Okay, and we're going to do the basic knit stitch. Now, my issue is that I'm at a really weird angle because I've got you guys sitting in my lap. Okay, so let me make this first stitch and get it off, and then the rest should go fairly easily. Okay, so what you want to do is, okay, well, actually I can't even do that on this first row. Okay, you want to go from the front to the back. Now I'm told this is the proper way to do the knit stitch. I don't like this way to do the knit stitch. Okay, here we go. All right, so you go like this, and then this loop that you just took and went through on here, you pull off. All right, let's do it from the front one more time. All right, this is called a thrower, okay, or I think it's also called English style. Well, let's try that again. It's because I'm looking at the camera and not actually what I'm doing. Here we go. All right. All right, and then you can toss it to the back. I prefer to knit through the back loop. And what that is you can see that you have a front loop and a back loop. I prefer to go through the back loop, grab my yarn, pull it out, and stitch across. Now, to me, it's a matter of personal taste. We're just going to let that one sit in there cockeyed. We're going to finish doing these 15 stitches. I really wish that my radio was working, guys, because I am used to having sound in the background while I'm recording. And for some reason, my internet is not working at the moment, and I don't know why. Okay, some of you might remember seeing your mother or your grandmother knit. All right, it's a very useful craft to know.
You just heard an episode of Superman, which originally aired Wednesday, April 5th.
Here we go. Okay, so you can listen to Superman in the background for now. All right, but if you know how to knit, you can make almost anything that you need as far as clothes go. You need a sweater, learn to knit. You need a hat, learn to knit. You need a blanket, learn to knit. I think I'm dropping stitches by mistake. This is driving me bananas because I'm not used. First off, I used a long tail cast on, which is one of the most popular cast ons that there is. I'm not used to it. And then it's brand new knitting needles, which I'm not used to. Then I went and got my other yarn, end of the yarn mixed in here. Here we go. go through this quick. And I'm pretty sure I have dropped stitches. That's a different day where we talk about how to fix mistakes. How to do the purl stitch will be next. But right now we are doing the knit stitch. So I want to get down to the last stitches. Okay. So there's another stitch. And you definitely want to make sure that you're going through the loops onto the needle and not the stitch underneath. Okay, so here is my original slip stitch, and here is the first long tail. Work the first long tail as normal, and make sure that you're looking at the right part and not on screen. All right. Then the last stitch of your row, if it's a knit, you actually want to knit through the back loop. All right. Because if you don't, your first stitch ends up huge. All right. And then I flip my stitches this way. All right. That way I don't accidentally twist this stitch. If you twist this stitch, you're all of a sudden going to end up with an extra stitch. Your count will be off, and you're going to be sitting there going, how did I get an extra stitch? And it's because what happened is, you can see that the bottom side of this, all right, of this stitch, here's your old stitch. You pulled it like this, and now you have two extra stitch, or you have two stitches there instead of just the one that you want. So you want to make sure that your stitches are the proper way. Okay. If you work your way all the way through, okay, I put my needle in and then I pull on my thread or my yarn to tighten it up. Flip off my first stitch, all right, and then I can go through. If you find at the very end that, see, my problem is that the camera works a little bit lower than what I like to knit at, all right. But what I need to do is get some rows in here so I can show you guys how it looks when you have several rows of stitches. So let me pause and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, here we go. I did 3 rows, okay, of just knit stitch. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't look like the knit stitch that you're thinking of. What you think of knit stitch, okay, which are a bunch of little V's, okay, that's actually a play of the knit and the purl stitch. We're just going to do the knit stitch now, so you're going to end up with these bumps. So let's take a look at how the knit stitch is actually created. All right, so you stick it through and you pull this up, okay? Here. Why is it I can't do it at this height? If I could hold you guys at a higher angle, you'd be able to see this better. Okay, so, all right. So the stitch is actually created by this stitch that you're moving off. Okay, so that, because you're pulling the next stitch to the front, the old stitch, that bump, moves to the back. All right, so this means that you're going to have all these bumpies coming up on the back. And when you do your turn, the bumpies are going to move to the back with it.
Old Time Radio Antioch. Brought to you by Mac and Mind Software and your donations.
Now,
You're listening to ABS.
when you do it through the back stitch, or the back loop, all right, it's still going to send the bumpy to the back because of the way that the stitch comes out. See how this loop is in the back? All right, that's actually going to be quite important later on. When it comes time, when you put your work down and you pick it back up, and you're trying to figure out which side you're on. Because there's a right side and a wrong side for most things. Especially when you're working on a knit stitch. Okay, when you're working knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, you will find that your bumpies will be on one side of the stitch and the V's will be on the other. But we'll get in that later. Your homework on your 30 stitches wide is to work 10 rows of knit. Okay, so just knit. I recommend knitting through the back loop on the last stitch. I really do. That way you don't end up with this big old loop sticking on the end. Okay, it tightens itself back up when you go back on the next row. Okay, so 10 rows just like this. And tomorrow we'll start doing some purling. Okay? In fact, tomorrow we're going to purl one side, knit one side. Purl one row, knit one row. Okay? But for now, just knit 10 rows. Okay, guys, that's it. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.